The Avelos of Tisha B'Av ultimately really begins with the Chet Meraglim, the sin of the spies. You know that according to Chazal, the day that they came back with their negative report, and the Jewish people accepted the negative report, and which led to the decree of wandering for 40 years in the desert, that was on Tisha B'Av. And Chazal say that the Rebbeinu Shalom said that he looked down and he saw the Jewish people crying about the tragedy, quote unquote, of us going into Eretz Yisrael. And so Hashem said, tonight, on the night of Tisha B'Av, you're crying for nothing. So I promise that eventually there's going to be a Tisha B'Av where you're going to cry for a good reason. And so the decree, the tragedies that would eventually take place on Tisha B'Av, the Churban Beis HaMikdash and so on, was already established, was already planted that first night of Tisha B'Av with the sin of the spies. And therefore, if we collectively want to remedy this time and to fix Tisha B'Av and to get rid of the crying of Tisha B'Av, then ultimately we have to fix that original mistake of the Chet Meraglim. And so how do we do that? What exactly was the sin of the spies? So this week's Parshas Devarim, we're allowed in to understand the psychology, what was really going on behind the scenes of that sin. And so the pasuk in Sefer Devarim, Moshe Rabbeinu is repeating over the story, and Moshe says as follows. He's again quoting the Jewish people's reaction to hearing the report of the spies of Eretz Yisrael is difficult, and it's full of giants, and it's impossible to conquer. And Moshe says that your reaction was the following thing: B'sinas Hashem Eisanu, that Hashem, out of His hatred for us, took us out of Egypt and brought us to this place just to die in the hands of the inhabitants of Eretz Yisrael. And so the Svar Makdashim point out that what you see from that line is that the ultimate problem which led to the crying of Tisha B'Av, which leads to the tragedies of Tisha B'Av to this day, came from a feeling and a sense that the Rebbeinu Shalom hates us. And that's what the Jewish people were thinking. They were feeling that Hashem hates us and put us in this impossible situation. And so the Tzaddikim therefore said, if we want to correct the sin of the spies, the way to correct it is by reinforcing within ourselves the belief that Hashem loves us. And that's why it's in fact said in the name of the Baal Shem Tov that every single day by davening, Shachar and Ma'ariv, when we say the bracha of Ahavas Olam, Avtanu, that Hashem, you loved us with an eternal or an infinite love, the Baal Shem Tov said that to the extent that a person has kavana in that davening, the more time you spend with kavana saying that tefillah, the more time is taken off of Galus. So with every second that you add to that bracha, a second is detracted from the time of Galus. What does that bracha have to do with minimizing Galus? Well, the answer is the very root of all exile, the very root of all Galus, of all Tisha B'Av, was that feeling of b'sinas Hashem Eisanu, that Hashem hates us, as it's explained in this week's parsha. Therefore, the more that we could reinforce the opposite of Ahavas Olam Avtanu, of Rabba Avtanu, that Hashem, you've loved us with an eternal and infinite love, to that extent we're correcting the mistake of Chet Meraglim, which fixes the essence of Tisha B'Av, thus decreasing and shortening the length of Galus. And so that's our avodah during this time of year, as we're being conscious of the fact that Tisha B'Av is a tragic time and all the difficulties that has befallen us as a people and as individuals. We have to remember that it might seem b'sinas Hashem Eisanu, that Hashem has hated us, chas v'shalom, but we have to be mechazik ourselves to correct the day by reinforcing the belief of Ahavas Olam Avtanu, that Hashem loves us with an eternal love. And although He might not show it all the time, that's where Emunah comes in to reinforce that deep belief that He does in fact love us with an eternal, unbreakable love. So Hashem should help all of us, that both individually and collectively, we should come into Shabbos, Menuchas Nefesh, and Menuchas Guf, and experience the redemption of our people. B'yas Kol Tzedek, M'her V'Meinu. Amen.